So if you've been following the podcast for a while, I'd say the last 6 months to a year, you've noticed that we've covered a lot of different pastors, a lot of different churches, and a lot of different really terrible situations that the IFB, the Independent Fundamental Baptist Movement, has tried to sweep under the rug. And we're uncovering those, we're bringing those to light. We have people that hit us up pretty consistently to let us know, like, hey, I have a story I want to share, I have something I want to say. Today's guest primarily wanted to come on to be another voice to back up victims that we have come across and whose stories we've shared that have taken place here in Southern California. And so having this guest on, I'm thrilled to have this guest with us, but having this guest on is, I feel like, going to be a pivotal moment for these stories, going to be a pivotal moment for the podcast as well, and actually, in my opinion, is going to be a fairly pivotal moment for this guest, just because it's a great way, this podcast I have found personally, as some of my guests have attested as well, is a great way to kind of clear the air. It's therapeutic, and it allows us to present ourselves in an environment that, while we find often the internet can be unforgiving, the group that we've fostered here at Not Your Mother's Podcast has been very, very supportive of the victims, of the survivors, of so many people that have stories to tell that want to share them. I'm not going to take a whole lot of time to intro this guest. This guest attended a Southern California Independent Fundamental Baptist Church where some pretty heinous things have taken place. They have some things to speak about in regards to that, in regards to the administration at that establishment. Also, no cursing whatsoever. I even bleeped. I'm really excited for you to check out this episode of Not Your Mother's Podcast. Thank you so much for your continued support over the years. We're thrilled to have you along for the ride. Here we go.
Everything's alright in my father's house.
Wait,
in my father's house. What?
No.
Everything's not alright in
not
your father's
alright.
house?
No, not alright.
Welcome to this
Nope.
episode of Not Your Mother's Podcast as I cut off the one and only Aaron Lanning. So excited to have him with us. We got to do our toast with our Mormon cups. There we go. We're here for the cause. Alright, so the most chaotic intro we've ever had. Aaron came to me not too long ago, but it was a little while ago, and said, like, hey, there's some things that I've kind of been mulling over and brooding on, and just like some things that I want to talk to you about, and some things I want to bring up. I've noticed the podcast, and I feel like it's, you know, at least one way for me to express myself, and I want to come on and talk about it a little bit. And so I'm super grateful for you hitting me up for that.
Love the podcast.
Thank you, dude. Thank you so much. And Aaron's been a big supporter, so I got to thank you for that. Also, Aaron, specifically compared to how I'm dressed, is definitely the best dressed guest.
I'm coming from work. I do not always drive around in a suit coat.
The IFB stuck with him. He can't.
I just took off my tie.
What a
Stuart
rebel!
made me.
You
Take
were
off your tie.
Beard and no tie.
It was a man of God
You
tie
might as
that I had from high school.
I love it.
Faith's 30th anniversary.
Wait, that's a real thing?
It didn't match, but I was wearing it. It was a thing. Yeah, There was like 20 of us. Pat Cook, you'll know, Caleb, and the whole crew, Randy. We had man of God ties.
So you kind of, I don't know if you know, are familiar with, I know you know who Todd Vaperzan is, but like, I know this isn't to make fun of them, but they'll make fun of themselves for it. It's Belleville, Metro Baptist Church. Mm-hmm. Those guys always had ginormous Bibles. That was their big thing. So you guys had matching ties.
We had matching ties.
It's pretty rad, dude.
And it was kind of a joke, but looking back,
it was pretty serious.
It was
though.
Like, oh, you.
It was a joke, but you took it seriously.
Dead serious.
Yeah.
I had the tie.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I remember wanting to buy ties like Jack Hyles had. He had those. I don't know what you call them, but they have like a tapestry kind of look. Alan Donnelly still wears them.
Yeah, pastel or
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, anyways.
Donnelly.
Yeah. So all that aside, Aaron had some things that he wanted to bring up, and I want us to start off with a question that a lot of victims get a lot, and me and you in different ways have been victimized by the IFB, and we're not putting ourselves on a level playing field with many of the women that have come forward lately. We're not trying to do that at all, but there are, when it comes to verbal, mental, emotional abuse, that creates victims as well. So if you don't believe in that, I get it. That's fine. I don't blame you. There's a lot of people on my timeline that don't believe in that. Right. I follow a lot of, I'm trying to not curse and say, but like a lot of like military guys.
We're going to try real hard not to curse.
We'll see what happens. But I follow a lot of people that just don't take any crap, and so every little thing is like, oh, you're being a baby about. Like, right. Well, I understand that mentality, but there's two sides to every story. Anyways, in regards to that, me and Aaron had talked a little bit briefly recently about a question that a lot of victims get asked all the time, and they get asked why now, because rarely, especially in the stories that we're seeing lately, not just with the IFB, but with the Catholic Church, like people are coming stories and accusations and things are coming to light years later, like 20, 30, 40 years later. And then, of course, the guilty people or the people that were accused and or the churches they're associated with are saying, well, why now? Like, why did you wait so long? So I know that's kind of a slightly different thread than the way we're going to go, but I do want to address that just briefly, and there is a reason why now. And I can tell you this, every victim that I've dealt with, every woman, every man that, you know, we've talked or told their story, none of them have said, like, man, I wanted to wait till now because I thought it was going to, you know, get me notoriety or, like, get me in the news or, like, anything to bring them personal gain. Why now is not why.
Right.
Like, it's not, we're not breaking a story now because it's going to make us look cool or we're going to get more likes or shares. No, we're breaking it now because it's been buried for so long, and now we've been empowered by other people who have dealt with the same kind of issues. Sorry, I'm running away with your subject matter here.
Just go ahead. I'll be back.
There's a door right there too. But anyways, Aaron, let me talk to you, or let you talk to us about your why now. So why now are you coming to us and saying, like, hey, I have something to say?
Well, I don't think there's any method to the madness. You know, everybody has their own life, their story, their problems,
Sure.
and when someone is ready, I mean, there's no science to it. There's no research that shows
Now is the optimal time to share this.
Yeah. There's no reason. So for me, as far as feeling like a victim, I personally don't think I am any kind of victim or been victimized.
I would probably beg to differ with you, but
You might differ, yes. But I will tell you, and that's just how I feel.
Sure.
Right? And
your feelings are valid.
Even the ladies that just came out from the church that we won't name, right?
Yeah.
So even that, I don't think I don't know, maybe they don't want to be called, but they're survivors, right? So
Sure.
everybody's different in what they want to be called as, and so I just talk about me and my life. I don't feel that way. I do feel like some of the things that have happened in my life, I thought were just one and done. Maybe
It was an isolated instance.
maybe Bruce had a bad day, or things I heard. Maybe he was just being mean, or just give him the benefit of the doubt. He's human.
Right.
So for me, my why now was obviously this last year,
Mm-hmm.
seeing everything unfold, and hoping in my heart that Bruce would come out and publicly say, not accepting responsibility, because that's not something I would put on anybody if you didn't do the actual crime,
Sure.
whatever.
Yeah.
But just that, who I thought he was, his life verse.
The person you looked up to.
Yeah, some having compassion, making a difference. It's his life verse.
Hold on.
Isn't that your life verse?
Jude 22.
Hey, June 22.
And I've stuck with that all these years.
Yeah.
I still like it. I like the principle and the concept.
That's
behind
his
it.
life verse.
So me and Bruce had the same life verse.
Yeah, and
well,
some having
I
compassion.
knew we
making
were
a
on a
difference.
course for intersection, but not that one. So.
Who knew?
Oh my God.
Right
So,
here,
but
you heard it here first.
yes, I heard it here first. Shoot. So, the what you're getting at, and what I like that you're kind of working into this is the reason you're coming forward now is not to say, oh, I want my piece of the pie. No, you're this is my interpretation, is like you're seeing all these other things come to light, and you're saying, okay, what I saw was not an isolated instance or a bad day or just someone who's just going through a season in their life where it's just a difficult time, so they're taking down on someone else. It's what you saw was a pattern.
Yeah, patterns of negativity. And
Yeah.
I just, when I saw how it wasn't handled correctly,
Sure.
and that bothered me. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, but what really lit a fire under me, if I can use a Baptist word.
Do it. I just said seasons of life. That's the same thing.
That is true.
I think Jack Scott said
I
that
think we
every
say
other
things
sermon.
and we think Baptists have a corner on it.
And we don't.
No.
The Baptists don't.
So what lit a
So
fire?
many of Jack Hyles' stories,
Yeah.
not just the Elvis one, because that's completely made up, but like so many of his stories and his sayings, like hurt people, like all those things,
Yeah.
like they're good, but they're not his.
They're not his.
It's not.
His words.
He can't put his name at the end of it. Sorry, go ahead.
So no, you're good. So for me, when I saw there's the lack of silence bothered me, but
Sure.
when I saw the hashtag, I'm not friends with Tammy Goddard on
Yeah.
Facebook, but I did see her profile was public, and I would see "too blessed to be stressed" right around when all these things started to come up. And that's kind of why we started Everything's
Wow.
Alright
Yeah.
in my father's house, because
It's not.
you have these serious, at that moment, a lot of the people inside faith thought it was allegations.
Sure.
And those of us outside are like, why would people make this up? Like, this is true. So in that moment, they're seeing serious allegations from their viewpoint, and man.
And again, you're talking about two worlds here. You're talking about the outside looking in,
Yeah.
and the inside looking out, trying to also protect the others that are inside.
And if I'm the pastor's wife, or just a member,
Yeah.
or it's my family member
Sure.
that's going through this, and I see too blessed to be stressed, like no big deal.
That's
like,
gonna be a
like,
problem for me.
Screw you.
Yeah, that's gonna be a problem.
Like we're gonna be okay. You know, I was pissed.
Well, because that to me, because I've seen it, especially on social media, and not just on, in relation to this instance or these people. I've seen a lot of other people kind of try to put out a lot of positivity when they're going through a really tough time in their life.
Yeah.
But
there's no empathy.
But yeah, we can't. I just can't find empathy for them in that season that they're in. Like, you're going through a tough time because you've been putting other people through a terrible time much of your adult life, and now you want to express to me that you're too blessed to be stressed and you're going to rise above this trial when it's all fabricated. You did it to yourself.
Yeah.
Well, something that you said a second ago. Sorry, did you have another point?
No, you're good.
Okay, something you said a second ago that I want to kind of hearken to, especially in regards to current events. You had said if at least Bruce, Tammy, someone on staff there had said, like,
Before lawsuits.
right before lawsuits,
Before they couldn't?
or even as the all broke and as I don't know. I've heard a lot of different.
Because their
things that are
claim
going
now
on.
is because of the lawsuits they can't say
Can't
anything.
say anything,
So
right.
if we're playing that game, cool. What about before the lawsuits?
Right. So yeah. Okay. Great point. So
Why couldn't they just say, you know what, we are with these women.
we're with the
and
victims.
We
We're
are hurt and broken.
Yeah.
Because Bruce is very emotional, right?
Yes.
And that's one way him and I connected well.
Yeah.
Because I felt like I am more emotional for a guy.
I'm very
But-
emotional.
I fully expected a video,
Like a
whether it was a
heartfelt
press
response.
or not, just a Facebook,
Yeah.
just saying, man, this is horrible.
Well, here's another thing that gets me is this guy, and he may not be doing it now, but up until at least a month ago, there's at least 2 or 3 blogs a month going up.
Yeah.
That are authored by him.
Yeah, he's still
use,
blogging.
use those as a medium.
Right.
You don't even have to admit fault or guilt or say you're
No.
sorry, but maybe just stop being so hard
Compassion, it's your life verse, dude.
and make a difference.
Change your life verse.
And so I have to be careful
Yeah.
how I approach the next thing, because I do want to bring it up, and I know we haven't got through your points yet.
Yeah.
We're going to, I promise.
Yeah.
But I have to bring this up, and I have to say ahead of it that I'm still looking for follow through from this pastor we're about to reference, and I'm not trying to paint him in a good or bad light, more of an amoral light, as Jack Scott would say. But I do like the idea behind what this pastor did, and I feel like if that idea was applied to the situation that we're talking about
Right.
with Bruce,
Yeah.
yes, then I feel like for you and for a lot of people, there'd be a lot more closure.
Yeah.
There'd be a lot more like, okay, at least you're making an effort to take your head out of the sand as an ostrich pastor and like actually do something.
Deal with the problem. You look at so many men who posted on Facebook
Yeah.
that have left.
Yeah.
One or two that I know of.
Mm-hmm.
Said,
I've seen a few of those posts.
you just didn't deal with the problem.
You did nothing.
Yeah, you just let it go.
So what I'm referencing is in a recent sermon, Bob Gray II talked about spiritual PTSD,
Yeah.
and I do like the imagery that's used there. I do like a lot of the things that he said and a lot of the ideas that are presented there. Again, a few people have reached out to me, yourself included, about it. Like, hey, have you seen this? And it's been shared a lot on
Yeah.
Facebook. And again, I like the idea, but you've got to show me some follow through. You've got to.
Yeah.
There's got to be feet put to it.
There
But-
needs to be more.
but to kind of isolate just the message itself, I like it if you
Yeah.
can isolate it and bring it over here to Bruce and say, hey, Bruce, this is what you should have said
Hell will
months
freeze
ago.
over.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's not going to happen,
Right.
but I feel like if he had kind of taken a page from that playbook, it definitely would have helped the situation for a lot of people. And now the tough part would be putting the feet to it afterwards or before,
Right.
because that hasn't been done to my knowledge.
No.
So,
Well, I just, he as a pastor, he was supposed to cover his flock and take care of them.
exactly.
And I feel like that's been the exact opposite.
Yeah,
And the more we connect with people who have left that I was close to,
Mhm.
who have left and now want to get in a relationship again,
Yeah.
that's the theme. Jackie Heck.
Good.
I kind of just said, this is
Both really
good
encouraged
for you if this will help you.
Yeah.
And I don't think it will help or hurt, but I think I just want to be a
It's gonna
voice behind these ladies.
I can tell you right
Yeah.
now that it's going to help you. This is what we're doing right now is a very therapeutic thing, and it's doubly therapeutic because this is the second time we've recorded
Yes,
this.
this is the second time we've done this.
Well, about a week ago, almost a week ago, a little over a week ago, we sat down and recorded. We're actually, Aaron, so I have to thank you for something. We're actually using Aaron's phone today. I usually use my phone. It was running out of storage, and it acted like it was recording, and they looked like they were there, but we got to the end, and we were both like...
Hour and a half?
I think more like 2
hours?
Yeah.
And we only recorded 10 minutes.
Yeah. We got to the end, and I was like, okay, man, come over tomorrow. We're going to edit it. We're going to pump this thing out. We're going to be done. And then I'm like, well, hang on. So my apologies, but also I'm grateful for you letting us use your phone today to record this. So on that note, though, I did want to go back to what we're doing is very therapeutic for you, but it also, just like when we talked about why now, it also speaks to other people that are saying like that are maybe in the shadows or that are like kind of halfway there on telling their story. This gives them that extra oomph to say, okay, well, it's not just, we all know now it's not an isolated instance in dealing with this person, this administration, but now people are seeing how widespread it is. Right. And for the most part, the people that are coming forward to tell their stories are women, and understandably so, because they've been wronged. The majority of the time, it's a woman that's been wronged, abused, whatever the case may be. And not trying to belittle it, that's just what it is. Right. So for a man to come forward and say, again, I know you're not coming forward and saying I'm a victim or abused or anything like that, but for you to come forward and say I have a story to tell about these same people, that brings a lot of power.
Yeah, there's
I'm
a
grateful
different
for that.
There's a different angle for sure from me and my experiences, but yeah, and one adult lady now told me she didn't want to come out with her story because she's a woman, and it wouldn't give validity to her story. And I said, you know, that may be true if you're within the IFB, but there's hundreds of thousands of people who would be behind you.
And I'll say this right now, and we'll get back into, I know we're straying from your path quite ridiculously now, but you're a person, you're a human, you matter, you have worth, you have value. And especially if you're coming out of a cult or the Independent Fundamental Baptist cult, you know, maybe you don't know, or maybe you haven't recognized yet, but you've been taught to devalue yourself since you entered that system. So it's understandable if you say, look, my story doesn't matter, or my story's too small, or people will just, you know, and by the way, me and Aaron have had this talk already, like, there's always blowback. There's always someone, or a few someones, or a whole lot of someones that you're going to get mentioned as I can't not imagine how many sermon illustrations I've been used in, and I'm fine with that. It wouldn't matter if I was or not.
So I'm in good company.
Right.
Yes.
I am, but you've got to understand that if the reason you're not coming forward is for anything personally where you feel like you don't measure up on for any sort of reason, it's just not true. It's a lie that you've been fed, and you begin feeding it to yourself.
Right. I got my notes right over here.
Oh yeah. So by the way, this guy's super high
so
tech.
I'm gonna be looking like this.
I usually write stuff down and just have it jotted down on a Sharpie marker. But this guy brought his computer.
Ballin'.
He's got his Bluetooth mouse over here. Like, guy is killing it. So, and he showed up in a suit.
You know, when
I'm gonna go get you a tie out of the other room to put on.
You have a tie?
Dude, I have tons of ties.
Yeah, I have some ties too.
We should do a tie review.
When I used to preach, I was telling you on the way here, when I used to preach in high school or college, I would have to like write out 90% of my sermons.
I feel you.
You know, just because I never had the gift to 3x5 card it, you know. Boom, talk for 20 minutes.
The worst time that, like, I was never good at it, but then working, you know, going to House Anderson and then working in the ministry for a little while, it helped. Yeah. But I'll never forget the Sunday morning, and the pastor of the church where I was working, I'll never forget this. That pastor called me one morning, and not called me, I think he texted me and was like, man, I cannot get out of bed. Like, I am so sick. And I was like, it's Sunday morning. And I was
story,
like,
bro.
No.
BrentThePastor.com. Not me.
I was dead. I was scared to death. Because I taught the teenagers don't care. Right. They're not listening to you. Right. You can get up there and just hum off Bruno Mars lyrics, which I did a time or two, and they just, oh, whatever, I don't care. And so he's like, I need you to preach Sunday morning. I was like, oh, no, you're killing me. And so I preached maybe 15 minutes. Maybe. Oh, Sunday morning.
They loved you.
No, they didn't.
No.
Bro, we were deep in the woods in Michigan. I had a lady, Tracy Albert. Is it Albert or Alberts? I don't know. She came up to me after and was like, good job, blah, 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 but, like, don't be afraid to go longer. That's exactly what I'm afraid to do. Like, I'm not going to go longer. Are you kidding me? Like,
what?
You're welcome. Go to Ponderosa.
Get out of here.
Go. All right, sorry. Way off track. So, we're going to talk about history a little bit, and then, like, kind of, I think we'll probably get into some of the patterns that you've seen and what, just tell me about some of your experiences or what some of the things that you saw that now you're like, okay, now I need to talk about this because a bunch of other people are bringing forward similar information.
Yeah, so, I mean, for me, owning my history was a big journey, right? It's a huge transition from what happened, what I did, what I did not do,
Yep.
separating the two.
Yeah.
This is my responsibility, and this is not. And so for me, I try to take responsibility for both, and I tried to cover Bruce's youngest daughter in some sensitive details.
Sure.
And that was a transition for me because once we realized it wasn't going to work out, there was bitterness. Luckily for me, like 6 months after that, there's therapy.
Thank
So
goodness. So let me just back up a little bit because I think we skipped something that some people don't know. So you actually, so I'll try to make this fun.
Yes.
You actually almost married into what I would call the patriarchy there. You were almost a part of that, literally a part of that family.
I almost became Aaron Goddard.
You missed the boat.
Thank God.
But at any rate, you were dating Bruce's youngest daughter.
Yeah, and my family told me multiple times when I was, after all this is said and done, now they felt like I wasn't going to become in that family. They had their son back.
Wow.
Which is not a negative thing for them
For that family.
or the Goddards.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I handled this situation.
Because you weren't given, bro, you weren't given the tools.
Correct, right. And that's part of the cult is I was, I'd come home for the holidays. I was at their house. We'd go out to eat, go to San Diego.
Right.
It was them, and then at one time, my brother John, the youngest brother, he said, "Can I just spend a day or two with my brother?"
Yeah.
That was like a Christmas break, and out of 14 days, I saw him the last 2 because he made me feel
guilty,
bad.
Yeah, yeah.
Dude, I didn't spend any time with you, so that's kind of what I was doing. But yeah, so as far as my history goes, the main thing that I took away was people won't always remember what you say, but they always remember how you make them feel.
It's true.
Right?
Yeah.
So
very true.
I remember, we're going to back up a little bit here later.
Yeah.
We're going to go through the negative timeline.
Sure.
But in my story, I was engaged.
Engaged. That's right. Not just dating, engaged. Yeah.
Yeah. So we were engaged, and then I had made several mistakes up until that point in our relationship, and it became so unhealthy and so many bad habits, public and private, where I made a very bad decision. Right? And so there was the breakup, and Bruce flew out the next day. Tammy flew out. And
it was a family affair. Yes. Wow.
He put his arm around me and said, no matter who this, no matter who this was, I would have been out here the same. So if you're not with my daughter or with you another, I would be here. You're one of my boys. So if you would be engaged, does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense, but it also doesn't.
Like if I was engaged to Samantha from North Carolina.
Right. He would still have flown out there for the breakup.
Flown out.
Yeah, no.
Because I was one of his boys.
No. That's a cover up for the real reason why he's there.
So,
and let's be real. If Chloe got some guy broke up with her, I probably would get on a plane too. Right. But again, we're talking about it in context where he's trying to make it sound like it's something that it is in fact not. Yeah.
So the breakup, I couldn't. He was so controlling. I couldn't see her. I couldn't talk to her. We're 23-year-old, 24.
And that's another huge problem with that whole movement is the my opinion, and it will stay this way, is that the lack of normal, it doesn't even have to be sexual, just normal interaction you have with the opposite gender. The lack of normalcy in that equation.
Just adult to adult.
Yeah, it just it makes so much space for not just unhealthy habits, but things that will cripple you when it comes to dating and relationships way on into your life. Right. I'm not saying it does that for everyone or did that for anyone. It has the ability to do that. Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, so he wouldn't...
so now you guys had no contact.
Yeah, that first day or two or whatever, I don't remember. He was zero contact. So Jack Scott was the pastor at the time of Hammond, Indiana.
And the chancellor of the Bible college.
And he was our counselor, right?
Oh, he was your counselor?
Yes, he was our counselor.
Okay, so, we have to have a whole other episode for that.
Yes. Well, we only met with him twice.
Still, whole episode.
I don't even remember what he said.
We'll make something up.
We will. So, he was
So Jack Scott was your counselor.
Yeah.
Bruce Goddard is now here. He's separating the two of you.
Yeah, so Bruce is now out in Indiana, right? And so our pastor is supposed to be what? Jack Scott, right? That's what they teach us.
Yeah.
So
you tied to that church? That's your pastor?
So Scott and I are on the phone 6-7 times in one day because I don't know what to do. I'm just devastated. I'm floored. made a big mistake.
And you were on staff at the time, if I'm allowed to say. Or
Yeah, I
we
was
cut
on
that out
staff
if you
with
don't mind.
Hiles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was recruiting, and he said, "Well, what'd you say when you talked to her?" And I was like, "I haven't talked to her yet. He won't let me." He was pissed. He was like, "Hold up, Bruce won't let you talk to her." He's like, "Were you marrying Bruce or her?"
Yeah,
I said, "Brother Scott, I was
marrying
gonna
her.
marry her." But,
Yeah.
you know, I was like, "Well, then you need to talk to her." Here, Fred Singleton. He was the principal of the elementary.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe for like a year or two. I don't know.
Okay.
But Fred Singleton orchestrated an empty room inside the elementary school where we
You two
met
go,
because we couldn't meet any other way. It's
Okay, so
just-
for once ever on this podcast, and it may not happen again, props to Jack Scott for that.
yeah. So he called up Fred Singleton and said, these guys need to meet and talk. And then later that day, Bruce said, "All right, I'm gonna let you talk to her."
But he had no knowledge of your
He had
prior
no knowledge. We
conversation.
already met.
Yeah. Okay, Bruce, sure.
So he's from the very beginning. He's trying to manipulate and control.
Yeah, the
Because
situation.
he wants a certain outcome.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, of
And
course.
so
It's about his image.
I first met with him by himself, and that was brutal.
Oh,
He
man.
laid into me a little bit as,
Little Bruce.
you know, whatever, a hurt father or whatever.
Sure.
But, you know, he said some things that he later referenced in a sermon this last year about the Prince Charming or whatever. And anyways, I've been to sermon illustration a couple times, so I've been told.
I'm sure it's happened.
So,
After this, it'll happen again.
you know, as soon as we broke up, I didn't realize this till years later because I went dark.
Mhm.
I went no social media for like
Yeah,
2 to 3
that's
years.
wise.
I was just off, trying
Sure.
to figure out me, what I wanted to do with my life. So I was later told he used me as a sermon illustration like 3 months later.
Nice.
Like, my
That's
daughter
fresh.
will not go with someone who has this problem. I was like, dude, your daughter was my problem. Like,
Okay, so now we have a new. This is the first. I always try to do this a few times. This will be the title of Your Daughter Was My Problem. Is this episode?
you know, part
nine.
of it, yes.
No, that's the title of this
Yes,
episode.
yeah, that-
I'm just
So
kidding, we'll
I was like,
figure
he
it out.
didn't even know the whole truth.
Sure, sure.
So whatever.
And he didn't want to.
Yeah.
He just knew the surface level, and that was enough for him
He
to
found
say.
enough to be the problem. He ran with it.
Right, exactly. And my opinion, my take, because I have to talk. That's my problem. I know. But my opinion on this is that this is he sees the surface level, says, I've assessed the situation, you are too much, you are, what's the word I'm looking for?
He's not
You're a liability to my image, and so that, we're done, everything's done. Like, that's all, and that's what you get when you have a person that runs, I would call a mini mega church, and has a ridiculous image to maintain, not physically in the way they look or dress, although that is part of it, but just morality, air quotes. You know, they feel like any little thing that could disturb it. It's not, and I know this. I've made this comparison before, and it's a poor one, but it still holds water. I think it's not unlike organized crime in that there's people under you that there's certain things they can't be doing. If they're doing those things, like, they're done. They're not a part of your organization anymore.
Mafia.
Yeah, Mafia. Also, Delta Airlines, I think, does the same thing. So.
Yeah.
Same.
Where were we?
Oh man, we rabbit trailed. So, the breakup happened. This is your
Yeah.
history. The breakup happened.
Right.
You were Jack Scott organized a meeting for you with
Yes.
your former fiance.
Okay, so
Then
Bruce and I met
Yep, yeah.
before, right? And he kind of laid into me, said,
Sure.
you know, blah, 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 this has happened. You know, tell me what was going on.
Right.
And I told him a little bit of the truth.
sure,
And that's the best way to get out of a lot, is to give him enough truth to believe, and he did.
yeah. Then they'll run with it. You don't got to deal with the rest of the fallout.
Right.
Yeah.
And at that moment, I thought I was protecting him, his family.
Sure.
Because if anybody found out the whole truth,
Right.
his image would be
Everything's
gone.
gonna fall apart.
So
Not
I thought-
even, that's not even close to the case.
So I thought
That's
I
how you
took
feel.
one for the team for
Sure.
the cause of Christ. That's kind of what
There
I
you
thought
go.
back then.
There you go.
So now he says, I'm gonna let you talk to her, you know, and then we meet, whatever.
Yeah.
Then a couple months later, we're like, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Or she didn't want to even.
It's not gonna work out.
She didn't want it to work out, which is fine.
Right.
So
That's
what
how
I
it goes.
realized is through that whole process, the best thing, and we'll come back to, is that
Mhm.
storm that I kind of created.
Sure.
You know, partially, but not his mean words.
Right.
But the storm I
Right.
the created,
fallout wasn't
that
there.
has made me.
Sure.
So
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of people, IFB or entrepreneurs or anything like.
Yeah.
That's a lot of us what we've come to realize, because I'm not saying I'm on top of the world right now, but I'm doing better than I have been
Right.
at other times in my life, and I feel like, man, like when I look, it gives you perspective in a big way, because that next problem that comes up, you're like, I dealt with this other thing, like this problem is cake You know?
And I would never be here if I would have saw Bruce. I would have never bring to light some of the things about his family that he doesn't know.
Yeah.
If he would have showed that sympathy.
Sure. And there are, I don't think it's a vast majority of people, and I don't even think it's a lot of people, but there are people on the planet that have no empathy. It just doesn't exist. It's like a bone grinding against a bone in a socket. Like they're just, that cartilage that needs to be there, it's not there. The empathy just doesn't exist for them.
So another comparison that we'll make here is, so I basically, what happened is done.
Yes.
I dealt with it. There was bitterness. Let it go.
Mm-hmm.
We moved on.
Yeah.
And then you fast forward to the current situation with some of the families that have had their daughters hurt when they were minors, violated when they were minors. And I saw Bruce bringing to one of the families is, I'm your pastor, let me deal with this. Why is your daughter doing this? I would hope you trust me. I think the exact thing he said was, I hope you trust me with this situation since I've been your pastor for 30 years.
But that to me, that is pure and simple a guilt trip. Like, that's all that is.
And when Jack Scott was trying to work with us, he literally said to me, the first time Bruce and I met, he said, will you tell Jack Scott Bruce Goddard wants to talk to him? In the most condescending, mean voice ever.
Yeah.
Like, dude, can I get a call with the man?
Right.
And here with the Hex, he's trying to get them, that family, he was trying to get them to trust him.
Right.
Here, he, with his daughter, their daughter, these ladies, this was a violation and they were victims. Mm-hmm. His daughter was not violated, was not a victim. Everything was consensual. Yep. And he didn't want to trust Jack Scott,
the man of
God,
God,
pastor. Yeah, at that time, but he wants them to trust
him,
the pastor. And
that's a good
I saw that and I thought, dude, how more arrogant could you be?
You can't.
So
it doesn't get more arrogant than that. Yeah, I agree 100%. And looking at the situation, and so we've talked about on the podcast before, and we're not going to throw out a bunch of names, but like I've talked about Victor Montero, I've talked about what happened. We're the story we're talking about is big, and if you're looking for it, you'll find it. In a Southern California church, a youth pastor that had done some just awful, horrendous things to the teenagers in his youth group. So that's the situation that you're kind of bringing us into now. What we're talking about now is like you're looking at not a benign situation, what happened with you and with his daughter, not a situation that just should be blown off. There's something concrete that happened. There was an instance of something that, hey, this is wrong, we got to deal with it, that kind of thing. And he's expecting the kind of results from someone here in this situation when it's not even remotely close. Yeah. He's expecting, hey, I want you to put your full trust in me. Because I'm the man of God. Because I'm the man of God, but also I've violated your trust. I have taken your word and just trounced it. I have almost literally stuck my head in the sand when this stuff all rose up. And now I'm coming to you to say, hey, look, I'm going to handle it when I'm not doing anything to handle it at all. Right? Yeah. So again,
couldn't trust the man of God, wanted them to trust the man of God.
Exactly. There you go. He couldn't do it himself, but he expects it.
Now he did back away once he saw things were going his way. Mm-hmm. Oh, he stepped back completely.
But again, that negates his backing away doing any good.
Right.
It's still the same backing away.
He told me to, and we'll address it maybe later, but it was we broke up end of November 2011. Okay. So 4 weeks later, I'm out here for Christmas. Yeah. We're in the car together, and he says, I knew you guys weren't going to work out.
What are you doing in the car with him, bro?
Dude, I'm still trying to figure this out.
Still going and everything?
I'm trying to make this work.
Oh, okay. So
you're
looking for a reconciliation at this point. Okay, I understand.
And he was still my pastor.
Right.
I'm out here, and he reached out to me or vice versa.
He probably want to take you Jack in the Box like he did to me. Yeah, I got you.
So, yeah. Dude. So we talk about what's his go-to.
Oh, really? Well, then I wasn't that special because we got Jack in the Box. I wasn't one of his boys.
If he likes you, he takes you Taco Bell. But
this is breaking my heart.
Tear.
Can you hold that thought? Because there's something else I want to say really quick. So one thing that really gets me about this person that we're talking about is when I went to Highlands Anderson College, I actually had a class. I don't recall who taught it, but I had a class, and it was either something about starting a small church, or walking with God, something like that. But Bruce's book was used as a curriculum, And man, when he would come to speak, the intro he would get would be glowing.
Yeah.
Like as far as the guy started out in a tent,
Started
and
with
he's
nothing.
started with nothing, and he's built an amazing work. And
If you're from Waldemar, raise your hand. And then
Yeah.
40, 50,
yeah,
60 hands
exactly,
later.
yeah, about the same as the HB enrollment at one
Yeah.
point in time
These
was
kids are from California.
right, exactly,
Yep.
not down the street, not
Yeah.
off-campus students.
Yeah.
So, looking at this through the lens of being in college and heralding him as this great leader, and now looking at it through the lens of reality are two different things where I understand this church growth and all this stuff, not unlike pastors that I've dealt with, like Randy Toole and other pastors that I've dealt with that my family has worked for, that have just been manipulative and angry and just you lead by fear. And that's, I'm not saying, I haven't personally experienced that from him, although I've personally experienced manipulation from him. Leading by fear is really a big part of the IFB and the success. You see these guys that are at the top. I'm not here to say every single guy that's at the top in the IFB led and got his way there through fear and manipulation, but if he didn't employ it, I'd be extremely surprised.
Right.
And that's what I'm seeing through the lens of reality. And I was like, no, this guy isn't this great person who's dedicated to the Lord and bettering people's lives and helping build people up. He's tearing people down and taking their money so that he can have a nicer house, a nicer car, nicer things,
Last
a
week,
nicer life,
last week,
more Taco Bell.
dude, I won't take anybody's story, but
Yeah.
I was told that someone knew about how much he makes
Woo!
per year, and I think I told you.
Oh, yes, you did. Yeah. That's
If,
plenty.
if their guess is right,
Yeah.
he's a very
doing all right.
well-paid CEO
Yeah, exactly. That's
who
the level.
manipulated
Yeah.
to get there.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
It's not a bunch of people saying, "Man, we want to give this to you because no."
No,
Yeah.
he's good at what he does.
Yep. All right, so back on track. Can we get
Before we
back
do
to
that,
Yes, you
so
were
I
gonna say.
reached out, and I didn't reach out. Someone
Yeah.
called me last week, Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever,
Mhm.
who I thought was still an active member of faith, right? Someone I went to high school with.
Yeah.
He calls me, and we just connected very well. We talked for an hour, and
Wow.
he's been out of faith for 3 years.
Really?
So I was like, dude, I had no idea.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna use his name, but he just
Sure.
said when he left, he was told by Bruce that I can't have a relationship with people that aren't in my church.
So he left. Hang on, but
Yeah.
we both live here in Southern California.
Right.
So he left and moved away.
Yeah, he's gone.
No, but did he move to like Washington
He's out
or?
of state.
Okay, so he did move far.
He's out of state. But he just wants you to know, I don't have a relationship with
And
people.
this man was involved. This person was involved in that church for
Heavily.
a number of years, right?
Yeah,
Heavily. And now the pastor who wanted you to give him all your money and you did. The pastor who, let's say, I don't know who this is. Let's say the pastor wanted you to work on a bus route. Whatever the pastor
Yeah.
wanted, you were there for it to the best of your
Yeah.
ability. You needed to take off work to be there on Wednesday. You did it to help this pastor with his
I
work.
mean, he has relationships with, now it's,
Right.
who's the Napa pastor?
Oh man, I don't know. Treber?
Trevor, yeah.
Okay.
He's not in his church.
Right.
I have a relationship with him.
Right.
But he's a pastor.
Right.
So, okay, so you just told me.
Even Treber's doing it better than you.
If- yeah, if
And I don't like
somebody-
Treber. I can tell you right
No,
now.
I know you don't. So if somebody's important, right,
Yeah.
for the cause of Christ,
Right. Exactly.
you'll definitely have a relationship
Yeah.
with them. Or if they're going to hire you to speak at their college.
If it's going to benefit you fiscally, then
Yeah.
do it. Otherwise, you were just a peon in my church that helped me make a lot of money
Right.
and build this work for God. But now that you're leaving, man, I don't want anything to do with you.
Did
You're
you
trash.
see- did
You
you
get discarded quickly.
Yeah, did you see Jackie Heck's post?
I haven't seen all
Okay.
of them.
So she posted a screenshot of an email from some member who
Okay.
left.
Okay.
And the member said, I was here holding tent poles in the rain. Now that we don't know who the member is,
Sure.
she covered that.
Yeah.
but the member said, I was here 30 years ago holding tent poles in the rain, and I have watched you drive member by member by member away. I was here before
Oh my
most of your
God.
current staff was even out of the nursery.
Whoa! I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, because most of the
Wow.
staff was
Yeah.
kids,
Yeah.
kids
Mhm.
there. It's either his family or
that's the
their
smart
kids.
way to do it.
So that member just said, I was here before your staff were even babies. You know,
And then what's the
because you haven't
and
dealt
that
with
person ended up
problems.
leaving.
Hopefully,
Okay, but what they're saying is they're saying like I'm an integral part of this church.
they
but
said
I
I've seen
I can't
people
handle
I
what
was
you're
friends
doing.
with for 20, 25 years, and you pushed them away, and that's not fair to me.
Yeah.
I'm losing my friends.
Yeah,
So powerful stuff.
that is
Check it
powerful.
out.
Yeah.
But yeah, back
yes,
on topic.
Yes. So, so you had talked about the breakup, how all that went. You had a timeline.
Yeah.
Did we get through that timeline yet? Or
We kind of did.
Okay,
I'll
okay.
tell
I just
someone.
don't want to skip anything that you want
No,
to say.
I'll tell anybody going through like a horrible day.
Sure.
You need to have a good community. a good, healthy community.
And that, in my opinion, that community doesn't need to be 50, 60 people. It could be 2 people.
It could be 2, 3, 4 people.
Yeah.
In my case, it was about 7 or 8.
Yeah.
And it was a weekly meeting that we saw with my therapist.
Yep.
In the beginning,
So you had group therapy.
it was with Dave Douglas in the beginning.
Okay.
So
how
maybe
did that go for
maybe
you?
I just wasn't good at doing what he said.
Well,
But it wasn't
oh my
beneficial
gosh.
for me.
No, it couldn't have been. It couldn't.
And maybe it was just me. Maybe I wasn't working it, Brother Dave. You know.
That's not what it was. Let me just tell you right
So,
now.
but I remember him saying, you know, the first couple of days is gonna be like hard.
So he's prepping you for group therapy.
He's prepping me for like the realization that my life is about to change.
Right.
And it's not gonna be what I thought it was yesterday. And so, you know, I was like, after a couple of years, I realized, the first couple of days were hard.
So that's all he said was just the first couple of days is going to be hard. Then you're going to transition. Everything's going to be hunky dory kind of thing.
Well, no,
or
not
at
really.
least getting better.
I just remember thinking that first year was hard. It
It's a
wasn't
long
just a
time.
day.
Yeah.
It was a year,
Yeah.
and then 2 years, and then finally things started to change where I felt like I got my life back.
Yeah.
I'm independent, but I got some good principles.
Yeah.
Not from Dave, from group therapy.
Right.
From court order therapy. So
Yeah.
it was good, man. I enjoyed it, but yeah.
Good. So what you're saying though is having a community, whatever
Yeah.
you're going through, especially if you're going through kind of a tough time, a rough patch, having a community, no matter the size, is going to be very helpful.
It's hard to have that if you're still inside the IFB.
And you may think you have one, but all they're doing is manipulating you to get you
Yeah.
to stay in the church, to get more involved. That's what I
Right.
tend to hear and would give as counsel myself when I was a youth pastor was like, if you're having trouble, like whatever it is, whatever sin problem you're dealing with or financial issue, you just need to be more involved in the church.
Yeah, just read your Bible more. You're good.
Exactly.
No.
And a lot of times it's uncanny to say the least how many times people I've had friends and family members do the same thing as well. Go to a pastor and say, look, I'm having this sin problem, whether it was actually a sin or not, what, you know, alcoholism, you know, whatever it was, going to a pastor and saying, I have this sin problem, not a financial problem, not a not a problem with my family, just a sin problem, what we would call a sin problem. How often the pastor's recommendation was, you need to up your tithe, you need to work on your budget,
You need to pray more.
You pray more, but so
Get
often
in a ministry.
Yes.
Read your Bible.
often though it went back to finances. So many times these problems that we would bring, and they would say, well, you just need to have balance your budget better, and you'll be fine. Like, what? I came to you because, you know, me and my wife are having a bad sex life
Right.
because of what I'm looking at on the computer, and I'm trying to be vague because we want this podcast to go far.
Right.
But like, when you go to someone with that kind of a problem, that's their leader, and
Yeah.
you say, this is my problem, they say, well, you need to work on your budget. Like,
You
no,
can't.
man, like,
Yeah,
that's
you
not.
You can't bring your real problems in life in that
Real
movement.
world problems don't work.
You can't.
Yeah.
You absolutely can't because you get either labeled, you get degraded, or you get marked. And
Yeah.
whenever you get asked, you know, the pastor gets that, you're going to be labeled differently than somebody else who may have the same problem,
Yep.
but they just kept their mouth shut.
Yep. And they preach at you specifically for you, like you got made a sermon illustration out of. Like, pastors will take counseling sessions, which if you're an actual licensed therapist, you know good and well, like that stuff doesn't go anywhere unless you're you're mandated and you have to report to the authorities. Other than that, you're not standing up at a convention saying, I had this person say that. Like, no. But pastors will get up and they'll see someone in the audience. I've had it happen to me. They'll see someone in the audience that they counseled, and they'll bring up the exact instance without their names and basically call them out from the pulpit in front of everyone.
Yeah.
Not that many people know, but you, the person that was
There's
being
going to be
wronged,
one or
you
two
know.
people that know.
Yeah, and you know that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's a whole other subject.
It is. It really is. So therapy.
So therapy.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us a little bit? You know, talk us through kind of what that was like. How did it benefit you, or some things that it taught you that you feel like you'd want to share with others that can benefit?
I'd say it's probably one of the most scariest things I ever did.
Really.
I walked into this room with 7 or 8 other guys, and most of them twice my size, with tattoos
Sleeves
all over. And I have nothing against tattoos,
Sure.
but straight from the IFB into that,
Right.
I thought these guys were going to kill me.
This was a frying pan to the fire situation.
They are going to eat me alive. And it turned out to be some great friends that I met.
Good.
Turned out to be some really good people that I could call to this day. I talked to
That's
one
awesome.
of them 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Nice. That's
And
awesome,
just
dude.
reconnected because I said, dude, why aren't we friends on Facebook?
Yeah.
So it was a whole mindset from judging, you know, because I still, even though I was not in the IFB anymore, I go into this group, I'm immediately judging.
Yes. Yeah.
Can't talk to him. Can't talk to him. Maybe talk to him.
Yeah.
Might be my friend. He's gonna chew my head off. So I'm like analyzing right away.
Yeah.
And when I got in that room, I kid you not, I was hyped. I've never done this before or since.
You had a panic attack?
I had a panic attack. And I used to make, not fun of, but I used to think like,
it's
you
a
can't
joke.
control it.
Yeah.
You have a panic attack.
Mm-hmm.
I literally,
That stuff is so scary.
I
Isn't
sat down, and all of a sudden I couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
And I swear, it's the craziest thing. I've never experienced it before or since, but I had a panic attack, and I just was so overwhelmed with everything. And one of the guys came over to me, and he goes, Aaron, breathe.
Yeah.
Just breathe. You're okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, it took me like 2 or 3 minutes to finally calm down.
Yeah.
That was nuts.
It's a trip. Yeah. I don't think I've had one yet. I've had a lot of anxiety, especially waking from and going to sleep. But man, I've heard enough about panic attacks to know like that's really scary stuff.
It was nuts. It was nuts. Never want to do it again.
No.
But I would say therapy helped me figure out, who I am, what I want to be as far as a person in the community.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of pros and cons. I'd say the guy that was a therapist, he honed in on me for a good portion of those 2 years.
Yeah.
Because the first year I was fighting it.
Sure.
I thought he wanted to take my faith from me.
Well, but that's what we're taught about therapy from a young age. In the IFB, you're taught like therapists and scientists, they are the devil, as
right, that's what I thought.
Waterboy's
Meanwhile, I'm still talking to Bruce Goddard.
Right.
I'm still calling Bruce Goddard. So if people are like...
So let me ask you this then. So as you're, and I know we talked about this previously, I don't know if you want to talk about it today, we'll be brief, but like, what was the experience like going from this conversation with Bruce to this conversation in therapy? Were there similarities? Were there parallels?
So the first, I would say maybe year, I really kind of kept in contact with Bruce. Maybe the whole 2 years, but the first year I really subscribed to what he was saying.
Sure.
Maybe just read your Bible more.
Yeah.
Maybe just get through this,
right,
and you'll be okay on the other end.
So many
God will take care of you.
Yeah.
And something happened after about a year where I kind of started to see this cycle with Bruce from my life, what I knew about my brother, which we'll share later.
Sure.
And I started to see differences in how he said, do you need to reevaluate the faith? No. This is Bruce Goddard talking. And he would say, do you need to reevaluate how you view women? Sure. And then my therapist would say, no, your faith, because I wouldn't say I talked to my pastor.
Right. No.
I didn't want him to think I was still. But I would bring things up, and he'd say, no, Aaron, your movement belittles women.
Right.
Yeah. I'd say,
so you do need to rethink that.
Yeah, kind of. But then it's a struggle. It really is, because how many times do we hear them say, Eve was made from the rib of man?
Right.
Jack Scott would say it, because
all the time.
not to be trampled on, by the foot.
Yeah.
But not to be over the man. So she wasn't picked from here or here. Equal. So I'm thinking, no, they're equal.
Yeah.
But
we don't treat them that way.
No, they don't speak. They don't do anything public.
Nope.
They're like the last person consulted on like church events.
If they're consulted. Yeah. And in the home, like, and again, this is, I gotta go harken back to Bob Gray II. Even in his message, he called out women or homes and said like the only way to deal with the problem or whatever is to go to the husband. And I'm not saying pastors should be like hanging out with the wives and just, I'm only gonna talk to your wife, go away, husband, like, but to make her of no effect in the household, when in most cases the way you're teaching them is she runs the household all day while husband is away working, but problems in the home you shouldn't consult her on. Sorry, man, that's all wrong.
Bring
that's
both
all
in.
wrong.
Why not?
Yeah. What's the problem?
Same page.
Anyway, so in therapy you're learning.
So he started to say, no, your faith is tied with how you guys treat women.
It's intertwined 100%.
So there's some patterns starting to change for sure. What else do I got? I would just say, man, therapy is just a place to be real.
I love therapy. People have heard me say it before.
You can just go in there and say whatever on your mind. No one judges you.
Yep.
And if they do, they sure don't say it.
Yep.
And if someone finds out, like, oh, did you hear what so-and-so said? Like, the next week, the whole therapy session's on you. Because if that gets around, you're like, okay, so this isn't a safe place anymore.
Right, exactly. So that ruins the whole point of it.
And then when you see that, you're like, all right, cool. I can be who I am.
Yeah.
I can figure out what's going on with me, and I can move on with my life.
And that's such a powerful thing. I think it's a very powerful thing for a lot of people. But for us specifically, and we're not special, we're not saying that, but for those of us that have left the cult or left the IFB, that's a powerful thing because we've never in our lives ever been able to be who we really are.
Right.
And there's so many things. And what's funny is I learned this a lot getting into the dating world. Like there's things that maybe I like or think about, and I think, oh my God, that's evil or that's whatever. And Then I'd bring it up to the girl. She's like, no, this is not weird. Like, this other guy likes this thing. Like, whatever it is. I'm not trying to get weird and dirty, but the point is, we've buried so many things about ourselves, not in a romantic way at all. Just we've buried things about ourselves that are just, that's who we are. And we feel like we can't talk to anyone.
You can't even be real with your spouse.
Right, exactly.
And that's your
And that's
partner.
the one person you should be
You
able to
know,
be as real as you can with.
During the engagement process, there's a book that her and I were reading.
Please tell me.
And it was like 50 questions to ask, your significant other.
Was it
before you
Dating with a
get
Purpose?
No.
Okay.
No. It was like questions to ask
I
before
need
you
to
get
get my hands
married.
on that one.
or whatever.
Okay. Oh, that was the
or
name of the
during
book.
the engagement process.
That was the name of the book?
Yeah, that was the name of the book.
Okay.
So what I specifically struggled with at that time came up in one of those questions.
Woo.
And I told her, I said, yes, I had this problem with this, and
Yeah.
it's been good for a while.
Yeah.
And then we started to act out.
Okay.
So
yeah.
she was aware of, and she never judged me as far as I know.
Right.
Not to my face.
Right, exactly.
But anyways, that's all that to say is you couldn't really dive into the struggle, because if you did,
Nope.
you're gonna lose that relationship.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's just, it's not cool.
No, it's not. And again, what we're saying about therapy is, it's for anyone who hasn't experienced it, that comes from a background like we do. Like, man, just give it a shot. It's so liberating. And I'll say this: the first session or two, and I'm not trying to go Dave Douglas on you, but the first session or two may not be, because you're gonna have some reservations. It's just gonna happen.
Yeah.
But the more you learn to open up and just realize you can say within
it took
reason.
me a year.
Yeah.
It took me finally a
But
year.
once you get there and you realize this is someone that you can say, not only can you say your deepest, darkest, or your whatever to, and they're gonna just take it in, because that's a huge thing in and of itself.
Right.
They're also gonna give you constructive feedback. And not everything from my therapist has been like, oh, that's fine, everything's fine. Like, no, she'll tell me, like, hey, that you need to work on that, or that's a problem. And it's not just that, it's here's how. Because what we're used to hearing, and we do get some here's how in the IFP, but for the most part, it's railing on our sins and all our things that we do wrong. And it's not really constructive. The majority of it is like, you're wicked because of this.
Right.
Okay, well, what do I do to not do that? Or what do I do, whatever. And you don't get an answer. It's just, you're wicked because of this, bye. Put money on the plate.
he pinpointed me a couple of times throughout
Nice.
those 2 years where he knew. So when I first walked in, they say kind of, who you are.
Yeah.
Tell us why you're here.
Yeah.
Tell us a little about you. We want to get to know you.
Yeah.
And I said, I am a Christian, and I said, I don't remember exactly what I said, but I said something along the lines like, I'm this kind of Christian Baptist or whatever, and made it sound like there's
Something
levels.
special? Yeah.
And then my therapist just said,
Was this the very first session?
yeah. He said, well, thank God Jesus is here in the flesh. And I was like, that's not what I was trying
What a
to
jerk.
say. I was just saying, there's different levels. And he's like, really? Do you not even hear yourself right now?
Yeah. Because you don't hear that because you're coming from the inside looking out. When you say those kinds of things, you don't hear them. You hear the rhetoric that's been going into your head since you were a child. And when someone from the outside hears it, they're like, what a jerk.
He's like, so Joe, you're a Methodist, right? Do you believe in God and Jesus? Yep. Hey, Steve, you're he just started going through one by
Yeah,
one.
all of them, yeah.
He's like, do you believe in God? Yeah.
So you're not anything special is what he's trying to tell
Yeah,
you.
he's like, you're just like everybody.
Right.
There's nothing unique about you or
Mhm.
Baptist.
But you think about how many times you've heard sermon illustrations and people stand up and give testimonies like, man, I was at Stater Brothers and someone came up to me and said, you're different. What's different about you?
Yeah.
Well, you're different because you dress weird,
Yeah.
number one. Number two, you probably talk a little weird.
Right.
And you probably tried to stuff a track down a couple people's mouths on your way into the store.
Yeah.
That's why they came up to you. It's so funny to me to see the other side of it where, like,
Right.
from before, I'd be like, man, praise the Lord. Like, we're having a testimony for the Lord. Now I look at it, I'm like, no, you're just being a weirdo.
And it could just be your personality.
Yeah, it
because
could be that too.
when I was managing in Escondido,
Mhm.
a couple of my guys would just say, man, you're pretty positive most of the time. You're pretty happy.
Right. You can still get that without.
That has nothing to do with my faith.
Right.
Right.
You can still get that reaction. What I'm getting from what you're saying is you can still get that reaction from people without going to church every Sunday. Yeah, and reading your Bible every day.
They're like, there's
Yes.
something. I'm like, well, I try to be happy every day. It's just
That's
a good
it.
way to live life.
Mm-hmm. So continuing our conversation on therapy, there were a few more things we wanted to hit on. I didn't want to miss anything. So was there anything that your therapist brought up in your group therapy as far as anything you would feel foundational that helped you, that you think could help other people? Was there anything that he asked you or kind of tried to suss out with you?
Yeah.
What specifically do you recall from that?
Well, so I still got I used to journal a lot, so
Yeah.
I still have my journal
Nice.
that I have one that's for like 4 years, before I got out.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's one journal that's like 6 months before
Yeah.
I got into therapy and we broke up.
Yep.
And then a good year and a half afterwards.
Wow.
So it
But that's
shows,
a 9-day difference, huh?
yes,
Yeah.
it shows a beautiful transition.
Yeah, great.
But when I got into therapy, man, the things that really resonated with me was the questions he asked me,
Okay.
right? So I got them written down. So he would ask, do you struggle with identity, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm a preacher. What does that mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you get to the root of it, you do struggle with that. You
Yeah.
think on the surface, no, like I'm a believer in Christ.
Right.
I'm a preacher. I've been doing this my whole life. I don't. But-
And he's like, are you a copycat? Do you feel like you're kind of like this other person? Yes,
Yep.
absolutely.
Yep.
I even coughed like Jack Hyles sometimes.
Oh.
And then he's like, do you feel like you're empty being here and not there? Because
So being in therapy,
I couldn't
and
go to
not
church.
Okay.
I could
Yeah,
not
yeah.
go to church.
Mhm.
So he said, do you feel empty being here and not there? Well, like, yeah,
Yeah.
I do. Because
Mhm. That's your life.
I'm not listening to the man of God. And
Right.
he said, if you stopped going to that church, would you feel like you lost everything? And that's kind of what it felt like for me.
Mhm. Yeah.
One day I
you
had,
do feel like you lost
Yeah.
everything. Absolutely.
and I think that addresses some of the victims or the survivors.
Absolutely.
Is why don't you come out, or
Yeah.
why did you wait? Like we said earlier, there's no method of madness, but
No.
geez, it's a difficult topic to address. But I compare it to one story where an abusive wife with her
Mhm.
husband. Why does she go home every night? Why doesn't she just leave? For whatever reason, there's some security there, right? There's some love.
Well, it's again that's a surface level question, and I'm not
Yes.
going to pretend to know
No.
everything, but
Yeah,
like
huge
from
question.
what I've worked with people and seen happen in my family as far as what's happened to my mother with her abuser, like it's not something where you can just say. And I like the question being posed, like, well, why do you keep going home, or why now? Like, there's so many more facets. There's so
Yeah.
many dynamics. It's
Yeah.
not just this person beats me, so I live with them. Like, no. It's way deeper than
Yeah.
that. And in many cases, it's the fear of the unknown. This is not meant to scare anyone, but there are multiple instances of a woman telling a man, hey, I'm leaving you, or just straight up leaving and not telling him, and then later on she's found dead because he escalated his abuse. So there is that.
Or if you have that inside IFB,
Mm-hmm.
losing the IFB church is like losing a family member.
It's almost like losing your whole family,
Mhm.
because in many instances, I've been over this before, so I'll be brief, but you can lose your job, you will lose
Yeah.
most of your friends,
Right.
and family and friends that you have previously alienated
Right.
because you're in the IFB. Now what do? Do you reach out to them and say, hey, will you take me back? Do they even want you back? Because
Right.
you were probably pretty mean to them during your time in the IFB. I know I was. I was
They
mean to
don't
my
want
neighbors.
you to ruin their kids.
Right, exactly.
So-
So again, that's a whole
There's a
nother-
lot of pieces to play.
Sure.
But I mean, for me, I did feel empty being
Yeah.
there, right?
Of course.
There was a whole transition of just talking about real struggles.
Yeah.
But I will tell you this, my therapist was really good at pinpointing things. I mean, he was one of the best in Chicagoland.
Mhm.
That's what he told me, so I believe him. But he was good.
Yeah.
And he would say stuff like, Aaron, you don't have to look back 2,000 years to find a savior.
Yeah.
Just look right here in this room.
I like that.
At any moment, you could call one of these guys and they can save you in
Yep.
that moment.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I'm
sure.
not talking about your soul.
Right.
I'm talking about you.
Your
Right
literal
right now."
physical life. Yeah.
So it was like maybe, like I told you, it was that year I started to really dive in.
Yeah.
Right before that year mark. I kept trying to play tough because I
Uh-huh.
was a bunch of tough other guys.
Right.
So I didn't want to be.
You don't want to break down.
I was
you
still
don't
being a copycat. I
Right.
was just copying
Them.
these guys now. So I was a chameleon.
You're still not being yourself. Yeah,
Exactly.
100%.
So he caught that.
Yeah.
My therapist caught that. He said, you made some good strides, some improvement, but you haven't changed a lick.
Yeah.
He said, you're still a copycat.
You're just acclimating to the atmosphere that you're in.
And what he caught it was...
You're being Paul. You're all things to all men.
Yes, yeah. And he said, can we just get to know the
Torpedo.
real Aaron?
Oh.
He's like, I would love that.
But you didn't even know the real Aaron.
Yeah,
Did
so,
you?
no,
Yeah.
I didn't at that time. And so, like, what does that even mean? So
Right.
that's a process. That's not a one
Well,
question.
that's a transformation.
So he said, can we just get to know the real you? Like, is that okay? But he asked that question after one of the guys made a joke in the group. And it had been like a year just of hell. Like, it was just a battle. And the joke was funny. I don't remember what it was, but I was laughing. Like
You
when
lost
I
it.
laugh,
Yeah.
I cry
Yeah,
laugh.
I've seen it.
And I can't stop.
Right.
And I didn't realize I was the only one laughing, and all the guys are done.
They're all looking
and they're all
at you.
watching at me. And then I start crying, not laughing. Now I'm like crying, like,
yeah.
oh my God, this felt good.
Yeah.
I haven't laughed like this in a long
Yeah.
time. And they
You've
said,
been going through it.
why not? You know,
Yeah.
and that's what talks about guilt and shame.
Right.
The difference between, I am
So
something
big,
bad
so powerful.
or I did something bad.
And which is which? So you said one of them is I did something bad. One of them is I am something bad.
Right.
Because I know our listeners, this will help them immensely.
Right.
Which is which? Guilt and
So,
shame.
shame is I am something bad.
Yeah.
Like I currently am.
And there's not really a fix for it. It's just I'm bad.
Right.
Yeah.
You did something bad, big, small, who cares?
Right.
You are something bad.
Right.
But guilt is, hey, I did something bad, but I'm not doing that anymore. I'm
Right.
not that same person.
Right.
And so that's the transition, really, my
Yeah.
whole scope of therapy.
Mm-hmm.
But when I laughed, that's when he realized you're still copying, you're still trying to morph,
Yeah.
you're still being a chameleon.
Yep.
Okay, just be you.
Let's
love
get to know the real Aaron.
You.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Wow.
And I was like,
that's powerful, dude.
Bro. Yeah.
That's
'Cause
so
he had
powerful.
a client where he had one person and she was violating her family
Mhm.
and she would wear her hair down this way.
Yeah.
Wouldn't talk. He said for months she wouldn't say anything in therapy.
Wow.
And finally, he said, pull back your hair and see the beauty in the world.
Yeah.
But let the world see the beauty in you.
Oh,
Right.
that's awesome.
So
dude.
he's
I
like,
love
it's
that.
both ways. It's
Yeah.
not just a beautiful world for you
Yeah.
to see.
It's not a
They
mirror.
want to see you.
Yeah.
So he was good at that. I'll give him that.
That's awesome.
So
So therapy was really helpful for you.
yeah, super
I'm
helpful.
glad. I'm so glad. And I'm thrilled that you've come through what you came through in a way that, and again, this isn't, I'm not trying to be too dramatic here, but there are so many people who have been through either something similar or who have been through just a catastrophic event in their life, whether they did the thing that caused the issue or someone else did it to them, where there's no coming back. And it's not necessarily always a end all, a suicide or something like that. Like often it's just now the rest of your life you feel like you're defined by this storm that you weathered.
Right.
And you can choose to do that in a positive way where you're like, man, I beat that thing, like I'm good.
Right.
I can take whatever's next.
Yeah.
And what's great to me, in my opinion, and what I've come through myself, is once you beat that storm, that big one, the next one, even though it may be bigger, you've already beat something that's somewhat comparable to that. So the next one and the next one.
Right.
And that's life though, man. like
Yeah.
life is one thing after another. I hit up my dad, I don't remember when it was, not long after Chloe was
You hit
born.
your dad?
Bam.
Right.
No, I hit him up. I hit him up because it was just, things were crazy. I think I had lost my job or something. Like, it was getting wild, and I called him. I was like, man, when does this life thing, like, you're further along than me, like, when does it kind of, he's like, when does it level out? He's like,
Yeah.
it doesn't happen. Like, you just keep going, man. It just keeps going like that.
Yeah.
So all that to say, I'm grateful that you've come as far as you've come, that your metamorphosis, as I like to call it, has occurred in a way where you were able to make it a positive thing as opposed to a negative thing, which is what happens for a lot of people, unfortunately.
People's past are not near as important as their future.
Boom.
And so you've got,
That's money. Yes.
my therapist would
Yes.
say stuff like, you've got to get some altitude to your situation.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
put a little bit of grit and work in, but
Yep.
you've got to be able to. There's an animal, man. I don't remember what it was, but there's an animal that flies a little bit, and then it sees how far he needs to go,
Oh,
and it
okay.
comes down. And
The turkey, probably. I think that's a good allegory where you just need to get to the level where you can see the next thing.
right,
And honestly, there's times in our lives when you cannot see the next
and that's
thing.
why you need that group, that community,
Exactly.
that community
Beautiful.
to
Yeah.
help you see
Absolutely.
how you may have a bad day, but geez, your bad day now is a
Yeah,
lot better
yeah.
than this bad day.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So
So what else?
that's basically
That's it?
So
Okay.
I do want to address the timelines.
Yes.
Timelines matter, and
Yep.
not the timeline of events that we've seen the last year.
Okay. Yeah, no, the bigger timeline.
Yes.
Everything. Yes.
Because for me, when Bruce said to me, I knew you guys weren't going to work out, I'm thinking, dude, why would you say that? Like,
And I think I interrupted you. Around when was this? This was
that was right after
like
we broke
right
up.
when it happened.
3 or 4 weeks later.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And
Mm.
in that
When
moment,
you were back here in the
visiting.
car with him.
Yeah,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in that moment, man, obviously, I'm not proud of it, but thinking about my life is over, I'm just going to end it,
Mhm.
it's done. that's not something you say to that kind of person.
Oh, no.
So, of course, he didn't know that was...
But that makes it even worse. Not that you should tell him, never, ever, ever. But, like, for it to just be cycling in your head, dude, that's so dangerous.
Yeah, and, you know, he doesn't know how to counsel well, if at all.
I know. I've been in counseling.
So, yes, you have.
I know.
But, so anyway, so the timeline of negative patterns.
Yeah.
So you jump back to 2005,
Yep.
right? With permission, my brother Randy,
Mm-hmm.
we were at a party. All of us were at a party at his house for his oldest daughter.
Yep.
And Bruce saw some, you know, flirtation,
Some interaction,
and he
between
was
teenagers.
pissed. Bruce was pissed. He gets Randy. So
And we're not talking about someone making out.
no,
We're not talking about
talking.
someone. Yeah, just talking. No physical
maybe
interaction
getting
whatsoever.
a plate of food for him.
Right, but no physical. But I just want to define that. There's no like
touching.
There's no petting. There's no nothing. It's
Just talking.
By the way, sorry. Side note: petting. Since you left,
Right.
have you ever heard physical interaction between people that are interested in each other romantically referred to as petting? Ever?
No.
Ever?
No.
What?
A
Was
pet.
that-
I have a pet. When I'm watching him,
But-
I call that petting.
Petting, yeah, but you think about it, like that just clicked with me. Like I've never heard that since.
Oh, I know.
That's the dumbest thing. All right,
Well,
sorry.
That is so winning.
Sorry.
My therapist
So
was
losing.
like, hold on. So you
So
go
winning.
and
You winning?
grab people's souls.
Souls. Yeah, that's a tough one
And
to
they-
explain.
that's normal.
That's what we'll title this one: Petting and Soul Winning.
Petting and soul winning. So,
Aaron Lanning on petting and soul winning.
dude, my personal
Don't miss this episode.
biography. Oh my gosh.
That's terrific.
That's
Autobiography.
That's
I
gonna
ain't
go on my
writing that one.
tombstone.
Yeah, do it. Master petter and soul winner.
okay. So, 2004 or 5.
Yeah.
Right. So that party happens. A couple weeks later, we're at his house,
Yep.
Randy and I, and we're doing some work as he often would have.
Yeah.
You know, teenagers over to
Yeah.
build a fence or whatever.
And he paid you guys.
And he paid us, yeah. And so
I wanted you to say he didn't.
he paid us. He was good with that.
Good,
He's
good.
always good. with
Well, I mean,
that
the church gave him plenty of money, so.
Yes. Oh yes, they did. So
That's probably building fund money he paid you guys with.
that's another podcast.
It really is.
That's somebody else's story. That
Yeah.
really should come
Yeah,
out.
no, I'm not trying to delve into that. I'm just saying,
But they,
as a joke, it made sense.
yes, it's horrible, but it
Yeah.
happens.
Yep.
It has happened.
Wouldn't surprise me.
So he takes us home.
Yeah.
Right. And
So he's taking you and your brother home from
Randy's
the
in
party
the front seat. I'm in
where
the back.
Randy talked to another person.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And so the party happened. They were flirting. A couple weeks later, we're at his house, and we're doing some work. And he says, "Aaron, would you give me and Randy a couple minutes?" Right.
Sure.
So no big deal. Cool. So I'm in the house waiting to see, dude. What did preacher talk to you
What
about?
wisdom did
Yeah.
the man of God impart
Tell
to you?
me, bro.
Yeah.
And he just comes in just like he got his face ripped off.
What?
Just like halfway scared, halfway
Like
like,
you saw a ghost.
what just happened?
What?
Years later, we find out that he, Bruce Goddard, made reference to that party
Mm-hmm.
and said, "I saw you talking with her, my daughter, my oldest daughter, and I wanted to punch you. I wanted to beat you up. Like, this is not okay." That's his exact words. I wanted to punch you. So he said, Randy said, you know, it just shook him, as anybody.
Yeah.
This is your pastor, this is your preacher, and he's supposed to be your guy, and he's threatening you.
I understand the thought process there of like, because I've always said, and I always will, and it's not gonna happen, but Chloe's not gonna date till she's 35. Like it's my running joke. But the truth is, I'm gonna be very protective. Like there's a kid in kindergarten that's just talking about like that she likes.
Cut it off, dude.
See,
Cut it off.
So that I want people to understand that we're not just trying to come at him and say like you can't be a protective father.
Right.
No.
There's a way to
That's
do it.
fine. There's a way to do it, but also you have to bring into context who Bruce Goddard is to you, to your brother at this point in your lives. He's not just some guy who has a daughter. And even just some guy who has a daughter, that's a little out of line for him to say that, but it's not that bad, I don't think. That's my opinion. But your pastor, your mentor, the man who you work tirelessly for, the man who you go soul winning for, the man who you eschew evil for, the man who you put aside all these world, like, oh, you have sacrificed so many things for this man, and he's on a huge pedestal.
Right.
And then because you had a conversation, flirtatiously, whatever, with his daughter, he comes to you and says, I felt like I wanted to punch you. Like, man, you got to get your together. Like, you've got to figure it out. You can't be you can't be talking to teenagers like that. You just can't. As a male or even a female in an authority position, in the highest position at that church, You cannot go to a teenager and you can't say something like that. And I know some people will say I'm blowing this out of proportion. I'm not trying to. I'm just trying to bring the perspective
But it's
of
not
this
okay.
isn't just a dad saying to a teenager that he thinks shows interest in his daughter, hey, back off. That's not what this is. There's a way bigger picture here that you
If
have
that
to
was
pay
my
attention
son,
to.
I would be pissed.
Yeah.
Don't talk to my son that way.
I gave money to your church. I probably
Yeah.
financed your car. I did all this stuff for you
Yeah.
to make your life better.
There's a problem, come deal with me.
Yeah, and
I
come
would let
straight to me.
everybody know.
Exactly.
Like, I'm like, this dude is trash.
Yeah, man.
Don't listen to him.
No way.
Can you imagine him, for the people that are still in there
Mhm.
and have still watched this long?
Yeah.
Kudos.
There's a few.
There's a few.
Yeah.
But yeah, can you just imagine your son being told that? It just blows my mind.
No, that's ridiculous.
So you fast forward.
Yes.
So that's one negative experience, right?
Right. So we're looking
You fast
for a
forward
pattern.
to 2011.
Okay.
2008, and there was a pastor building a church up north, a couple cities away.
Yeah.
Where just Bruce and I are in the car together, and he makes reference to this pastor. I've never seen a fat pastor build a church.
What?
That's exactly what he said, and I was
What?
like, I'm still in IFB.
Right.
I'm looking to date his daughter at that time.
Right.
And I'm
So
thinking,
you're gonna let that one slide, but you're not gonna forget it
no, I
because you
never
have
forgot
it.
that.
Isn't and that's just
It just blew my mind, and I thought, I wonder if he talks about my weight like that.
probably. But again, that's the thing is you've gotta. I like to bring the perspective of this isn't just one person interacting with another. This is a person in leadership, a person you look up to, a person
Right.
that you're. By the way, you're not most people, and you, me as well. Like you're not gonna say anything counter to what they said. You're not going to speak against the man of God. How many times have you heard that? You
Yeah.
don't speak against the man
I
of
mean,
God.
technically, I wanted to be on staff, so he was going to be my boss.
Right, exactly.
So I'm not going to
So
let him
you're
know about the back talk my future boss.
Right, exactly. But see, that's again, you're looking at a power dynamic, and when the person who has the greater power
Right.
feels like they can wield it in a way where they can say things willy-nilly, helter-skelter, without any consequence, that's when you get things like marriage moment emails, and that's when you get things like this blog that goes off half-cocked every time.
Yeah.
Like, you've got to check
Right.
that. There's
Yeah.
something wrong.
So that's a negative, obviously,
Yeah.
situation, and I don't know how to respond, and we let it go.
Yeah, of course.
And then, of
What
course,
do you
what
say to
happened
that?
with me when
Yeah,
I'm in the
uh-huh.
car with him, and the negative thing he said, I knew you'd never work out, while I'm contemplating just, my life is over, I'm
Yeah.
done.
Right. That's
and
kicking
then
you while you're down.
I was a sermon illustration a couple of
Right.
months later that I didn't know
Yep.
years later.
And you will be in a couple more weeks.
And then my last, and now I'm probably every year.
Yeah.
There's-
Hopefully I am too.
Yeah, hopefully. It's good memory.
Yeah, man.
But, and then my last conversation with Bruce.
Yeah.
2016, right?
Mm-hmm.
Up until this point, we still talked.
Right,
Like
right.
every
Even
4
though
or 5 months.
everything
If everything
that
happened,
transpired, you're
we still talked.
on
And had I
speaking
seen him
terms.
up until 2016, I would have given him a big hug.
Sure, sure.
This was still my guy doing some good work.
Yeah.
But I made a GoFundMe account for a friend
Mhm.
who was in the hospital,
Yeah.
and Bruce called me and
Was
said,
that friend a member of the church?
it's a member of the church.
Okay.
And Bruce called me and just let me have it.
Why?
The
Why?
church will take care of this family.
Okay.
Any donations, we'll handle it. And I was like, dude, there's so many people that won't go to your church to give money, but they
No.
love this guy
Yeah.
and they love his family.
And they're gonna see a webpage,
So-
and it's a lot easier to click a donate button.
So I was like, what's the problem?
And then
that was it.
And then I'm sorry, I just have to say it. I know I'm not. I don't want you to share any information. I'm just saying because I know you're privy to a lot of juicy stuff. There's no the way that I've heard former and current members talk about the way money is handled there. Not yourself, nothing that you've said, but people that I lived with when I first moved here to California. The way the building fund was handled, the way money was taken in and not really redistributed the way it was told it was going to be. I wouldn't, if I was them, I wouldn't put money in the plate for that person. I'd go straight to that
You
person,
know-
or because it's going to be kind of a pain in the butt to go straight to them, I
Right.
probably wouldn't give it all.
Right.
So what you did was circumvented that whole mess and said, look, I'm not taking anything. Clearly, it's a GoFundMe. Put money here for this person who needs it. As opposed to, hey, we know our business practices haven't been on point, but if you just put cash, just hand us cash, we'll probably get it to the person who needs it.
Yeah.
I'm not giving you any money. No. So what you did was right. And then the person who was saying like, hey,
I was
why
taking money out of Bruce's pocket.
100. Thank you. That's all I'm trying to say. But that's my opinion. Absolutely.
That's what it was. But yeah, and then the negative email, man. The one you just made reference to about
marriage moments, man. The
Marriage
emails,
moments?
The emails are
that
just
was from
chock full of stuff.
2016 and
Yeah.
2018.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah, I haven't posted those in a while, but I'm just telling you, like, the stuff that he said. And then I know in a more recent one and I could be getting this wrong, so correct me if you know otherwise, or someone correct me in the comments if you know. As far as I know, I believe that one of the more recent, I don't know if it went out as an email, but I think it went up on his blog. Bruce wanted to say he wanted to talk bad about First Baptist Church Hammond, which there's a lot to talk bad about. Like, don't get me started, but like, take care of your own hen house or whatever. That's not the right phrase. But like, take
Bible
care
says get the moat.
Right.
Whatever a moat is, I don't know.
It's a 2x4.
But get it out.
Yeah. No. So the moat. Sorry, the moat is like my dad
like a big stick.
No, the moat is the beam. Is what you have in your eye, and you're trying to get a moat. My dad actually used me as a sermon illustration for this one. Had me pretend like I had, because the moat is like a toothpick size thing. Right. So he had me hold.
You got this big thing. You're trying to help.
My dad had a 2x4. He just beat me with it. Not beat me, but like man, hit me with the 2x4. And that's what you're doing. Yeah. Like, man, you look like a fool.
Right.
Like, handle stuff on the home front. That's not what did I say about hymns. Like, handle stuff on the home front. Do that first. And then if you want to criticize another church, man, go for it. But like, you've got glaring issues here right now that have been glaring for months. Let's say years at least. And months at least, definitely years. And you want to go call out. And then on top of that, if I remember this right, he called out First Baptist, and then that blog was deleted, but then later on reposted, and he called out, I think, Moody or some other churches.
Island Park, yeah.
Right. Well, am I correct or am I incorrect? Yeah.
He still called out churches. he just said since it wasn't First Baptist, now it's okay.
Now I'm okay, because you know why? Because I'm sure he got a ton of backlash from that. I mean, I saw on Facebook.
Well, obviously he's not in good graces with them anymore.
No, it's been a while.
There are several things he did that people don't know. But he's not allowed on campus, to say the least.
Really? That I didn't know. Good to know.
But I was gonna say, two challenges I'm gonna leave people with.
Please.
Whoever watched this long. Number one, I remember in high school there was every June, July fiscal year, or whatever.
Yes.
They had a pamphlet of all the bills, of all the expenses.
So Bruce would put that out to church members.
Yeah, and you can take one every year.
Well, I remember most churches I went to had that.
That stopped like 10 years ago.
No way.
So I was like,
the accountability's out the window.
If I'm a member there, I want to see where the bills are going.
Yeah.
When's the last time you as a member saw
what
payroll?
Was getting paid? Yeah.
Saw every penny. Because when I was there, my last full year was 2004. I left obviously halfway through 05 for college.
Yeah.
But from 2000 to 2004 or 5, every year there was
and then it stopped.
Here's the statements for the last year.
And some people may feel like that might be, some people maybe from the outside looking in like, dude, why? Like, who cares? Number one, things have not been handled well, and that's obvious to many members.
Yeah.
But number two, you also have to look at the church as this isn't your standard financial institution. You pay for services most places. Church, you're not necessarily paying for a service. Like, yes, technically Sunday morning service, but I mean, he's not putting brakes on your car. He's not putting food in your stomach. Like, that's not how this is. This isn't an exchange of goods. This is, you're just straight up giving. Number one. Number two, he has tax exempt status.
Right.
You got it when you're on that level, and that's technically now considered an NPO, a nonprofit organization. You've got to show where the money's going.
Right.
Because otherwise, where's the accountability? Like, how do I actually know that this is a nonprofit?
So when's the last one you got as a member?
Right. Yeah, it's a good challenge.
Right. and then call. I would say this: 5 people you're close with.
Yeah.
Right? 5 people you're close with who aren't there anymore.
Yeah.
Just give them a call and just
See
ask
where
how
they're
they're
at.
doing.
Yeah.
Maybe they left on good terms.
Yeah.
Maybe they moved out.
And it doesn't.
I guarantee you, most of them didn't.
Right.
They left because they got hurt.
There you go.
Guarantee you.
And even if you're not calling for the reason of like, hey, why did you leave or whatever, it doesn't hurt to
Just ask,
reconnect.
how are you?
Yeah, just reconnect with people.
That's one. There's a member who I've had lunch with this year so far. Maybe 3 times.
Nice.
2 times.
Nice. And we're only in April.
Yeah, and he's really cool. We have good conversations. A lot of it is centered around current events.
Sure.
But there's a couple friends who I see somewhat. Maybe once a year we do something. It comes up, cool. If not, who cares?
Yeah.
But we're there because of the relationship.
Right.
So.
And it's always to me a beautiful thing when, and I have very few friends. I actually just talked to a guy I grew up with. Well, it was a one-sided conversation. I talked to him, I think 3 weeks ago, because he reached out and said, hey, I've seen, and this guy growing up, honestly, because I don't want to talk bad about someone, but like, I'm going to say it now because this guy was one of my best friends growing up, and my best friend is Josh Bennett, and that's not who I'm talking about at all. Just want to clarify that. But
Hey, Josh.
Hey, Josh. I love Josh. Josh loves me. But this other person hit me up and said, hey, I'm not on social media, but I've seen your podcast, and I've seen some of the disparaging remarks, and I'm still IFB. And he wasn't coming at me. He was just like, I'm curious why your hatred for these things, or your disdain, your distaste, hasn't extended to me. And I told him point blank. I said, and I texted him a short message and said, hey man, call me, let's talk. And it's not like, because I'm not trying to pull punches, bro. Just call me. And so I asked him that, but in a short message, and then I sent some very long ones a few days later when he didn't message back, and he still hasn't. But I told him, I said, I like to think, and it's a small group, but I like to think that there's a small group of people that I'm friends with, and our friendship transcends a lot of things. Religion being one of them. Because there are a few people that I am dear friends with that are still heavily involved, and I don't want to make it sound like it's a drug cartel, but they're very involved in that movement. But man, we can sit and talk. I went and saw one of them for Thanksgiving. I stayed at their house. I did Thanksgiving with their parents. His dad is a huge leader in the movement, but we just sat and talked.
Nice.
The first night I was there, we were up till 2:00 his time, Michigan time. So for me it was midnight, but for him it was 2. But the beauty of it is your friendship can transcend
which is really
all
nice.
these other things. It's nice, but it's super rare.
It is rare.
Yeah.
So that's
But that's good. I'm glad to hear that for you as well. That there
Yeah.
are people that you
Absolutely,
can
yeah.
still have because here's the thing: you can talk about current events and all that stuff with them, but there are some people who are just as content to talk about good times, to talk about how your kid's doing in school, to talk about sports or whatever. There's a myriad of other subjects. If you want to retain that friendship and you're on the inside or the outside, I just want to say this. I don't think I've ever said this before on here. Those friendships, I wouldn't even say saved. You can retain them.
Mm-hmm.
You can still be friends with those people. And it's not to say that the issues we're talking about aren't really issues, or that they don't need talked about. They do,
Right.
but not with that person.
Right.
And it's okay to skip that conversation to keep that friendship.
Yeah, I definitely see. Obviously, the friend I meet up with, there's a gap,
Yeah.
and if the gap gets too big, and you can sever the relationship. No big deal.
Yeah.
But I'll just tell you, if you did reach out to a couple people and just see how they
Yeah.
are, more often than not, as you talk, you can figure out there's a couple things that happened.
Yeah.
And these patterns that happen with other people of negativity from Bruce or Tammy, they're gonna happen.
Repeated over and
They're
over
gonna happen
again,
to other
yeah.
people,
Yeah,
right? So,
for sure.
I would just say have a wall so you don't get too hurt.
Just be too blessed to be stressed.
Yeah, just too blessed to be stressed. Hashtag. Probably the only hashtag she ever did.
Yeah. Well, someone typed it for her. I guarantee you.
I have no bones with Tammy. I
Sure.
liked her, but man, when I saw that hashtag and I thought,
Yeah.
geez, these girls just are going through hell. Their whole story
Yeah.
is public now,
Yeah.
and you're over here singing "In My Father's House, Everything's All Right."
Right.
This doesn't. This
But that's been the MO for this guy and his family, I'm assuming. From
doesn't
the
bother
get-go.
us. We're okay. I still got my paycheck.
My head is in the sand.
Yeah.
That has been, to me, that has been the mind-boggling thing of this. Many things have been mind-boggling, but to me that tops the list.
If your daughter, or if you're watching and
Yeah.
you have a daughter, this happens to your daughter, and you see your pastor's wife do that,
I'm out, man.
I'm
out.
floored.
Yeah,
I'm
out.
floored. So
I'm
just
over
put
it.
yourself in the shoes of that family.
Yeah.
Man. You know what? It's hard to leave a place like that. It
Yeah.
really is.
No, I understand that.
Some people will be in there for the long haul. And God bless them.
Yeah.
I don't say that much. But God bless you.
I do, but I only say it sarcastically.
Hopefully you never feel that negative pattern.
Yeah, and that's not to say that there aren't people in there that have never been affected, or just haven't seen the negative effects from this person, this family.
Right.
We're not saying that if you're there you felt it, but at this point, as the congregation dwindles, as you're saying, people are leaving, a lot of them. As the congregation dwindles, as there's fewer people to squeeze for money, as there's less resources for him to pull on, as there's fewer people to drive buses and help with teen activities, there's going to be a lot more stress.
Do you ever hear the story of, somewhere in some sermon, people getting used to the nail? I know we kind of talked about it before.
No, yeah. Relay
So-
that message because that was a good
So
one.
a
yeah.
story goes, why do people go back to abusive relationship?
Right,
Or, why are you still in an IFB church from us looking out?
right.
Whatever you do is your business. But I'll tell you that one of the stories I did hear that I retained was there was a dog and he has a spot. If you have an animal. I
Yeah,
have
they
a
have their
puppy.
spot. Yeah,
They have their spot. They like to sit and lay down.
just
or
like you have
whatever.
your chair. Like this is my couch over here. There's a
So
corner where
there's
I always sit.
this
yeah.
owner has a dog who has his spot, but there's a nail near
Mhm.
there. And so when the dog moves and wiggles,
Yeah.
he gets pricked a little bit.
Right.
And the owner hears him, whimpering and
Right.
crying. But the dog is still there. The dog's still getting pricked because that's a spot.
Right.
Only until that nail really pricks him hard does he get up and move.
Yeah.
And that's the point of this episode, for me at least.
And I would say it's similar to, and we've heard the illustration a gazillion times, but what is it? It's a frog boiling in water, something like that, or a lobster. Like,
Yeah.
you don't
Lukewarm.
realize it. Yeah, it starts out lukewarm and you feel fine, or it doesn't feel as good. But you know, the thought of getting out or leaving is like, man, this is my spot. Though,
Yeah.
like I'm comfortable here, and we both understand that
Put him
fully.
from cold to hot.
Right.
And jump out.
Yeah, immediately.
Right.
So again, I love that illustration. That's great. Now we're doing sermon illustrations.
You know, there's so many illustrations that I
dude.
still got.
They're catched away.
Some
Yeah,
are
they're good.
pertinent,
Yeah.
some are not.
Yeah. A lot are not
A lot are
probably.
not.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Well, I gotta thank you guys for sticking around for this long, for this episode. Very thankful to you, Aaron, honestly, for many reasons this episode wouldn't be happening without you. We're out of storage on the original device, so we're
Yes.
using your phone, and you even brought us Chick-fil-A today, so thank you for that. I'm grateful. As you weren't supposed to say that. And also, we have the Deadpool to Bob Ross transition here. I have to thank, who do I have to thank? Kiana Robinson and Josh Owens and Mandy Walker. I did not buy any of these. These were all given to me. So, thank you guys. Thank you, Aaron,
My
for
pleasure.
being on this episode of Not Your Mother's Podcast. Can't wait for it to air. We hope you're helped by it. We don't, so much of this is all opinion based, but we are going off of our own experiences that we've had. So, yes, there's a lot of opinion here, but also there's a lot of facts that have happened in our personal lives, and we're just relaying that information to you. If you don't like it, we get it. That's fine. Leave a comment. Don't leave a comment. If you did like it, if it did help you, feel free to shoot us a message. If you have your own story you want to share, we want to hear it. If you need, I wouldn't say guidance because I'm not trying to put us on a pedestal, but if there's something where you're like, man, I want to share it,
If you
but
want another human to relate to,
yeah,
we
we're
can
here.
be that human.
If there's a but in between you, no pun intended, and sharing your story, let us help you overcome that. Let us help you get to that point where you're like, okay, I feel comfortable, I want to share it. And again, we're not here for a bunch of slander, a bunch of just negativity. We're here to relay our story because I've seen time and time again, it's not about me, and it's not me, it's the people's stories that they're allowing me to tell here on Not Your Mother's Podcast that have helped so many people. So if you have a story to tell, or if you have something you want to add to this conversation, drop us a comment. We'd love to hear it. Thanks so much. Thank you again, Aaron.
My man.
Yeah.
Love
We
you,
hope
Steve.
you guys love you back. We hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Not Your Mother's Podcast.